So what we're going to do to start with is going to create the layout. So in your activity main XML, the layout that we're going to be using today is called a relative layout. So if you just delete this text at the top and replace it with relative layout. And what relative layout means is that everything within that layout needs to be positioned either in relation to the parent or to something else within the layout. So I just wanted to explain a little bit more about what a relative layout is. So I want you to think of your phone screen as your parent layout. So when you're using your app, your layout will be expected to fill the screen. So for our counter app, we are going to have an image view background, a text view for our score, and two buttons for our plus button and our subtract button. So when we initially write the code, the default option in a relative layout is that all of our views will be positioned in the top left corner. Now this is obviously not what we want. So the way that we're going to solve this, in a relative layout, everything is positioned either relative to the parent, which in this case is the phone screen, or one of the other views. So our image view, because it's going to be the background, is going to be relative to the parent. So we're going to have to make the width match our parent and the height match our parent as well. So we'll cover the whole phone screen. And this is going to be our first item in our relative layout in order for it to be our background image. Then we're going to have our score. So I'm going to position our score in the center of our parent layout, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So we'll have a lovely text view in the middle. And then each button I'm going to have relative to this text view in the middle. So the plus button I'm going to position above the score, and the minus button I'm going to position below the score. Okay, so then hopefully it will end up looking a little bit like this. So now I'm going to show you how to do it in Android Studio. So for our counter app, we're going to have a result text view in the middle, and then we're going to have a adding button and a minus button first of all. So if we start with our result text view, I'm just going to put a value of 0 so we can see what it's going to look like. It's quite small, so I'm just going to make it bigger first of all. And I want it to be aligned in the center of the relative layout, so in the center of the screen. And to do that in a relative layout, I need to set my center horizontal layout to true, and then same with the vertical. Okay, so that looks good there. I'm also just going to give this an ID so we can find it in our Java file, and so we can use it to position our buttons. I'm just going to call it result. Okay, so now we need a button view, which is just called button, and it should ask you to set the layout for the width and the height. So you can have this as a static height or a static width, but we've just set it as wrap content, which means any text that we put inside our button, the size of the button will be dependent on that. So I'm going to put a plus symbol as the text, and again I'm going to change the size to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, I think 50 is big enough. So I want this button to be positioned above my result here. So I'm going to just put above ID result. Oh, and I want it to be in the center. Okay, that's quite close. I'm just going to add a layout margin, which basically means there's going to be like a border around the button. Okay, and I'm going to make another button to be our subtract button. Oh, and this time I want it to be below the result rather than above. Again, I'm going to give them both ID values so we can find them in our Java file. Okay. Okay, this looks good. You could leave it like this if you wanted to. It looks quite plain. With the default sort of text styles and colors. We are going to jazz it up slightly by adding an image as a background. So if you go onto Google, or maybe you have an image you already saved on your device, search for background images. You could probably use any of these. Might be better off using an image that has quite a same light pattern across it. I'm going to use this galaxy looking one. When you save your image, it's quite important that you use all lowercase letters and no spaces. Okay, so once you've saved your image, you copy it from your saved location. And then you need to paste it into your drawable folder. Okay. So to add an image view, you just type image view after an opening bracket. And because we want the image view to be across the whole of the background of the relative layout, I'm going to click match parent for both the width and the height. So what that basically means is it is going to match the width of the relative layout, and we've set the relative layout width as match parent, and the match parent for the top layout is your device screen. So it should fill the whole screen. We just need to find it in our drawable folder. Okay, so this doesn't quite look how I wanted it to, so you need to choose a scale type. I'm going to choose center crop, and that should stretch the image to cover the whole area. Okay, that looks good. We just can't see our text view anymore, so I'm going to make this white. You can add your own colors and save them here in your colors XML file. But for now, I'm just going to use the Android default white. Same with my button. I'm going to make the background white. Okay, this looks good. I'm happy with that. So what I'd recommend doing now is testing your layout on either a device or on your virtual emulator. I'm going to use a virtual device that I've downloaded into Android Studio. But like I say, if you plug your phone in using a USB, then you can test it on there. Alternatively, you can create a virtual device as well and do that. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. It looks as expected, which is good. However, obviously, when I press these buttons, nothing happens. And the way to make something happen is to edit our main activity Java file. So that's what we're going to do next.